Hello, this is Mary Harris from Paper Crow. Today we're going to be making a matchbook notebook. I have an example here that I put together prior so I can kind of show you what I'm talking about. It opens just like a matchbook would, but inside is a variety of different papers so people can write in them. And you can put messages in here or images. There's a couple of different ways you can kind of spruce them up. So I'm going to show you the different varieties that you can choose from. Today I'm going to use a We Are Memory Keepers paper cutter scoring board. So this serves for both cutting and scoring. You don't have to have this. You can use a regular paper cutter and, you know, good old finger pressure to make your seams, but this just is an easier way to do it. It comes as a portable unit. You can open it up, and on the back side there are slides that you can push over and it locks it into a solid board. I recommend getting a full-sized 12-inch one because you can use it with everything, and it still compacts pretty small. I bought a smaller version first, and it ended up being something that just didn't work for me because I don't usually use pre-cut papers. I use this to cut the paper down. So you can switch it between being a cutter and being a scoring board by flipping this piece back and forth. So when it's like this, you can line up the paper and use the scoring knife that it comes with. It kind of slides in. I don't know if you can see here, but there's a little slot for it to slide in and out of. So you can line it up against this piece and score your line to be able to do a clean fold. Then when you want to cut the paper, you flip this the other way, and there's a little notch to help guide you into the right spot. And then it has a crease here to run the knife on, so we can line it up however many inches you want it to be. Say we want 5 inches, and we can run the knife down and cut a 5-inch strip. It works really well, but you can only do a couple sheets at a time. It's really meant for manipulating a very specific piece of paper versus the kind that you slice down on big chunks of paper, which if you're mass producing paper, you're going to want one of those instead. The guillotine style is what they're called. So we start off, we have a scoring board and a cutter, and we're going to cut some paper to be the outside shell of our matchbook. I have this book here, The Essential Craft Papers by Craft Consortium. I believe I got this from Michael's, but I buy so much paper, it's hard to remember. It's different styles of like imaged metal. And I like it because it's neutral, but it has a lot of personality to it, so you can do a lot with it. We're going to go with a standard gray because really I'm in Halloween mode, and I want to make some matchbooks that will go into Halloween junk journals. I have an upcoming show for Halloween. It's called like Bootastic or something, but it's very fall based, and yeah, it's I do a lot of Halloween stuff for that season, and then I kind of don't really go to craft shows for other seasons. I don't know why. I'm a Halloween person. All right, so we're going to cut this into 4-inch strips. So because this is a 12-inch paper, I'm going to cut it at 8 inches. And then at 4 inches. So I have enough to do 3 matchbooks. And now we can fold these within the length that they are. We don't have to cut anything off of it. What I want it to be about 5 inches tall, because my books are usually 8 inches, so I want there to be room to have a pocket and for it to be tucked into that pocket. So now we're going to switch this to score. I got to put the little shelf up so it doesn't slide into where the knife goes. So I'm going to give it about a 1.5 inch lip for the bottom. Oh no, where did I put the scoring thing? Here it is. Okay, so let me slide this down so you can see here. We have, it measures it out. 1.5 is right here. I'm going to push down. I run it a couple times. And you want to be mindful of, if it's two-sided, what side do you want to be on the outside versus the inside. When I crease it down here, it's going to fold up like this. So this becomes the outside of my matchbook. So on the bottom part of the matchbook, I just have one fold. You could choose to give it a second fold. So I'll do one of these with a second line. So you go out just 1/4 inch and do a second line. And you can see the fold looks different because it's just got that 1/4 inch between the folds, and it gives you more room for more paper. So if you want a really thick one, you can do this to give yourself extra space for paper. Then I want it to be 5 inches from that fold. So if I'm at, what is this? This is 1 and almost 3/4. So, oh man, don't make me math. I'm going to go to the same spot 5 inches out. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to do another line here. So when it folds up, it's going to fold down like this. Now I want it to be a matchbook style, so I need to have a bigger ledge at the top. So let me roll it back out again. So my line is here. I'm going to go out to the 7-inch mark. Maybe go over 1 notch so that it's a little bit shorter than the main frame of the matchbook. So when I fold it, I have this block that's wider at the top, just like a matchbook would be. And then it's still short enough that it can tuck in to that bottom piece. So now that we've done that once, we're going to do it 2 more times. I think I'm going to flip it so I can get a little bit different of an outside. Again, I'm going to do 1.5. I'll go over 1. Then I'm going to go out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have a 5-inch backside. And then I'm going to go 1 notch past the 7 on here to give myself a gap for that paper to move around and to make sure it's short enough when I fold it up. Now here I'm going to fold it again. So you can see we have the 1/4 inch there, and fold it, the 2 folds up there, and we have a gap there. So it folds in nice and neat. Oops. There. Okay, and we'll do 1 more for good measure. I think I want the scratches on the outside, so we're going to do 1.5. Go 1 over to give it a little bit of a gap. Then we're going to go out to just past the 6 here. And then 1 notch past the 7. So you end up with a 5-inch back and a 4 7/8 front so that it will tuck. And we're going to fold it again. There, and we have our matchbook outside. All right. So that piece is done. We're going to set these aside. Now we need to come up with the papers we want on the inside. So there's several options. In this book, I have, this is music note paper that's been coffee dyed. This is just regular computer paper with stamping and some bubble wrap, a print on there. And I have several of those in there. Some other options. This is just like a mixed media paper, so it's a little thicker with coffee dye on it. I have, oh, there's some more of those. I have some old receipts that are about the same size. This is vintage paper from a train conductor's record, and I have some vellum here. And that, because I'm going kind of Halloweenish, I cut a couple of these out so that when I put it together, I can put that as my top page. The other option is you could select, like I have a lot of photos that I keep stored. You could find a photo that is about the same size that you could put at the front of all your papers, or you could mix it in. Now, if I'm doing sort of spooky time, I do have some kind of more interesting prints of public domain images. So I have, this is a snake charmer here. That could be a good outer paper. Or, let's see, the rest of these are group images, I think. Or landscape, so you can't really use them for this type of thing. Oh, here's a good one. This is a gypsy image, and this can just be found in the public domain if you search gypsy photos. I have a circus one. There's another gypsy one. Then these are some other like couples photos. It just depends on what you want the theme of your book to be, what you choose. So I might do a couples one, and then I'll have a Halloween one, and then we'll do just a basic paper one, so you can kind of see how they turn out when you're done. I also like to put some words on it, so there's a couple ways you can come up with the words for it. I do have, this is a Tim Holtz Ideology word book, and it's just snippets from, I mean, what do they actually call it here? Clippings sticker book. So it's different phrases from books that have been cut out and put into a book with stickum on the back. You still want to put glue because it's really not sticky enough to stay long term on a page, but it does give you pre-cut out thoughtful little snippets. Or you can sit down one day when you're watching TV or hanging out with your dog. You can cut out different phrases from books that you are tearing apart for projects and glue it to some type of darker background, and then cut them out as you go, which is something I tend to do. And if it fits the theme, then I'll use something like that. I have some typing paper here for us to decorate to kind of add some energy to it. We want to still leave room for writing, but just add a little bit of something to it. We could use stamps, we could use stencils. You could just shade the outside. I have a pattern stencil here to use, and then some inks and some daubers to be able to pull the ink. So you can just add a little bit of pattern by taking some ink and rubbing it into the gaps in your stencil, and just, you're going to cut this up, so you want to kind of put little chunks of stencil in different places on the paper. I think you can get maybe 4 sheets from this. when you go to cut it up. So spread your stencil out accordingly, making sure that you leave some room for writing. We can mix colors. You know, we have some dark here. We can add some yellow in. Make sure you switch your dauber so you don't ruin your yellow ink. And you don't have to use Distress Oxide for this. That's just what I have right next to me. So it tends to be my go-to because I can do more with it than I can. Like if you use what's this called? The archival ink. It's permanent. You can't move it around once it's on there. So I have a tendency to use this style instead. So we could line it up and put yellow next to it. So it kind of fades into a yellow. That can be cool. Or you can just add separate yellow chunks of the same pattern. Or we can pick a different stencil and kind of mix it up a little bit. I don't know how fitting this is, but I do have this sort of mermaidish sea scale type stencil. Could add some of this in. I like to kind of fade it as it goes out so it doesn't look so much like a line. It's actually not too bad. I do like the lighter color. I might overlap a little bit here, see how that looks. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Now these happen to have a pattern on the other side too, so that I can save some time and not, you don't have to watch me do every little thing, but we'll we'll say that's good, and then we're going to cut this up for our matchbook. We're going to switch this back again to a cutter. Now this is a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, legal standard for the US, right? No, letter size, excuse me. So this is where we cut from. It's 8.5. Our width of this is 4. So if we're gonna have to cut a little bit off for it to not overhang. So let's go 7.5. See how this looks. So go 7.5, and then we're gonna split that in half, so that's 3.25. No, I did that wrong. Okay, it's 3 3/4 would be half of that. All right, I've gone back and decorated a few pages on my own just to put them together without you having to stare at me doing it. And we're going to cut them up to fit the book. So because these are letter size and US letter size, they're 8.5 by 11. We want to cut it down to 8 inches by 10 inches at least to be able to fit in the book, because we want to get 4 sheets out of it. So I'm going to cut this in half and then in half again. Oops, I've got glue all over. Okay. We're going to do 5 inches, which is the length of our book. Now I have 2 here. I'm going to cut these in half. This should be able to cut through 2 easily, but I could be wrong. Let's see. There we go. See? I can do a couple together anyway. So now we have a little bit of a pattern on each side. Let's make sure it fits in the book, that I don't have to cut it down further. when we go to clip it in, will it still fold? I think I have to take a little bit off the length. The width will probably be okay, but let's take just a smidge off, like maybe an eighth of an inch, just to make sure that it closes okay. And now we're doing 4 together, so let's see how this works. It still cuts through, but this is just typing paper, so it's not super thick. Keep that in mind when you go to cut. So now if I put them in there, it will close easily. So that's good. You can kind of see that it clears it okay. Okay, let's cut up the rest of these. So we're going to cut off, let's cut off a half an inch, so it gets it down to 8. And cut it to 10. Oh, I suppose I moved it so you can't see the, there we go. There, it's at 10. And now we're just going to cut it in half and in half again. So we'll go, actually I guess I'm going to change that. We're going to cut it to 9.5 because save ourselves a cut later. 9.5, and then we can do 4 3/4 will be half of that. So then we have them all together. It can cut through the 4 printer papers because they're pretty thin. So now we're going to cut them 4 inches width, will be half of the 8. We're getting quite a stack of papers now. I got two more here that are kind of partial papers. So we're going to go, I want it to be 4 inches wide. Cut this to 9.5. Now I save all these scraps for other projects. I mean, you can see these pieces still have a ton of character, so don't throw them away. You can use them unless you're starting to get so much in your pile that you really don't want to save anymore. Okay, we're gonna go 4 3/4 for that to be half. This one is already 3 3/4. So I know these aren't all going to be exactly the same size, but that's okay because it's not supposed to be perfect because this is junk journaling and it's supposed to be done from scraps. So we don't want them to perfectly line up. Okay, our paper is cut. Now let's look at dividing this up into our 3 matchbooks. So we'll pick a stack of papers for each book. We have these other papers to kind of mix in. I'm going to do one Halloween one. So I want to have a sort of blank page underneath my spider web so that it shows that character. I'm going to do one that's more like receipts mixed in with the paper, and then this one's going to be with my photo in the front. So maybe I want a little bit of color behind that that kind of highlights it. Let's see what I have here. Oh, I have this interesting piece that could be behind it. Now getting it to staple in, we're probably going to have to glue that onto that back page, but that could give it a little highlight. This is cut with one of those rolling, oh man, I'm so bad at knowing the names of these little machines, but there's machines you can get that cut. Alright, we have our stacks ready, and we have our outside books. So now we need a stapler, and we're gonna need some glue to put some pieces on there. So I have glitter glue, which works really well for paper on paper. You can also use something like Fabri-Tac or even wood glue, like this is a Gorilla wood glue. That works pretty well. I'm going to use glitter glue today because I have a fine tip glitter glue bottle, and the one thing that I need for sure to glue on that is very fine is I'm going to glue this piece onto a piece of paper so when I staple it, it won't wander away on me. So I'm going to take the glitter glue and trace the edge of this paper lace. I want to be as intricate as I can so it doesn't squirt out the sides of it when I press it down. And I'm just doing it on the bottom because I want it to still look like it's free floating, but I don't want it to fall away. It would be too hard to just staple it on. It's just too fine. So I'm going to go all along the edge here. There. And I'm just going to press it into, I guess I like this side better. I'm going to press it into the bottom of this piece. Try to line it up as best I can so it's not hanging out too much. Then when I staple them all together, and I staple that piece of paper in, it will also hold the lace in with it. So, and we're going to put this image on there, try to centralize it so it kind of has a frame, and then we're going to put it in our book. We need to put it all the way down because we cut it so close to the edge. We want it to be able to close properly, so just don't let it float too high up when you go to staple it. And you staple it about midway because you want it to be solid when people flip it up, but you want the tuck to be able to go in. So I guess it's about maybe 1/2 inch up would be good. You can always cut the cover down if it doesn't tuck well. So I'm going to test the tuck here. It's a little bit tight, so I'm going to cut a smidge off, just maybe 1/4 inch, and make sure that it will tuck well. Alright, so we have that first one done. Do the next one. I'm gonna put one of these receipts in the front and then just tuck the other one mixed in with it. I could put one of these thicker pieces of paper in there too, just to add some variety to the papers. Make sure I get it centered in the front, just because I like the way that looks better than just free range paper. But you're not looking for it to be perfect because see, it's all different lengths and sizes. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tuck it in to the bottom, and then we're going to staple it about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch from the bottom. Make sure that's straight because that will bug me. Once you staple it, it's in there, so make sure you take the time to line it up. And I want to make sure that that's going to close okay. I think one of my papers is just a little bit long, but you can always cut it or rip it if it doesn't work. And we're going to test our tuck. Okay. Now one more. This one I want the spider web to be on the top. I'm going to mix these yellow pages in just to give it some variety. And try to get it as centered as I can. And then we're going to line it up at the bottom here. Oh, and that one's definitely a bit long, but we'll get it stapled in place and then rip off that top part that's in the way. Okay. This piece right here, like if I go to close it, you can see there's a couple pieces that those yellow pieces are just a little bit too long. So you can do something like put a flat surface down and rip it off. I like to have a rugged edge at the top, so my preference is to rip it, but if this is too much of a pain or you like it to be more clean cut, you can just use scissors. I might have to if my fingers just can't pick it up. Come on. Let's see. I'm gonna just free rip it, I guess, and not worry so much about whether it's straight because I'm making a mess of it. There, it fits a little bit better. I'm gonna tuck it, make sure it tucks. It's got a little bit of a bubble, so I'm gonna cut a little bit off. I probably would be better served to just cut 1/4 of an inch off of that 12 by 12 paper in advance, knowing what I know now. All right, so we have our 3 books. Now we want to jazz them up a little bit. So one thing you can do is you can age the edges. So we have ink, a dauber. You can go through and age the creases. Remember, this is going to be tucked in, so you want to do all edges. Don't ignore the back. You can age the pages inside too to kind of make it look a little bit more well-rounded. They make a brush style for inking, which I love, but I always lose them because they get mixed in with my paintbrushes, and I have a million paintbrushes in every bag and box. From every time I go somewhere, I pack a little bag of art supplies so I have something to do like in a hotel or when I'm a passenger in a car, and they just disappear into the abyss. I'm sure in a closet somewhere there is a bundle of paintbrushes and ink brushes. You can just buy like a cheap makeup brush from like the Dollar Tree and it's gonna do the same thing. You just got to get the right look to get the right angle. Like some of them are not angled right, but you can find ones that would work. This can be a bit time consuming, but it does make it look much more complete. So you can see that it puts some lines on there and makes it pop a little bit more. This is our photo one. So I have a bunch of bundles up. There's another video out there on making bundles. I'm going to look for one that kind of fits the style. So if I have this image, it could be maybe this one or this one. some of this stuff won't fit. I've got like a couple of Halloween ones I'm going to set aside for the Halloween notebook. Mushrooms won't work. I think this one might be the best one, because this one looks a little bit wrong time period. Let's go with this one. So we'll tuck that back in. And if we look for a center spot on there, that we're going to age this one too so that it blends together well. Do the same thing we're going to do around the edges. Try to do the different layers of paper. In other words, it looks a little bit weird if you age one and not the other. You're not going to be able to get it perfectly, but we're not looking for perfection. There, it just helps it pop a little bit more when it's on there. And then we want to put a little wording that might fit. I have a couple of ones that are pre-cut here. Let's see if anything fits it. I'm just looking through what I have here, because I thought I had some, but maybe not. Okay. Well, let's look at my page that I pulled from different books. I will be expecting you. He was listening. For a while they missed her. I don't know if I have one that really... I might have to do a little bit of digging here. Let's see if we have one in the Tim Holtz book. I have a little one here that says, "Hold on." His eyes were bright. Let's look at the picture again and see what fits the... Bidding farewell to the warm, merry day. That could be a good one. Yeah, let's do that. Now I'm just going to use this black paper because it's what I already have in front of me. Just easier that way. I'm going to put glue on it because the stickers are good, but I just want it to be a little bit more secure. So just run a thin line on it. Oops. Glue it. Get it the right side up here. Press it down. I put a little too much glue on there. That I'm just making a mess here. Luckily I just need a little bit of framing, so it doesn't matter that I just got glue everywhere. I've looked through my stash and I found some bundles and some things that kind of match the books that we're putting together. So for this one I have Bidding Farewell to the Warm Merry Day. For the one that's more payments, I have a little bit of everything. And for our Halloween, I have By the Light of the Moon. And then for the bundles for the top, we have the scissors here. I have Paid to the Order of for our receipts one, and for our Halloween one I have this Flying Witch. So now we need to age these so they match and assemble them together. So let's get that ink pad going. I think I might do a yellow edge on the Halloween one. Let's see how it looks. It just seems like it would go good with the moon image. even though it doesn't really age it, it still gives it kind of an outline that makes it stand out. I might regret this, but we'll see how it looks. I love the fact that I can do so many different types, different like themes, if I use just this kind of neutral metal type paper. Because you add so much color when you put the images on and the wording on that. You really don't need the paper to have a lot of activity going on. Seeing as I'm putting yellow on it, I'm not going to do the pages also because that just would be overkill, I think. And they've got a lot of character themselves. Did I get? Oh, I didn't get the back. Don't ever forget the back. Unless you're going to glue the back to the book, which is an option. I like these to be pull-outs because then people can take them out of the book, write in them, and stick them back in. So we have this one. Let's tuck that in. Oh, I got a little bit I missed. Alright. And then we'll switch to a darker color here. I do have a vintage photo, which I think is pretty common for people to use. This is a soot. The Distress Oxide Vintage Photo is a little bit lighter. You can see it's more of like a orange sepia tones type. Let me show you the difference here. So if you put them next to each other, one's more like dirt or coffee colored and the other one is a sepia. It's just a slightly different energy to it. I think with the color of the receipts that are in there, this one goes pretty well with it. And if we use it to age the papers in there, it's gonna look really good. Oop, went a little crazy there. It's alright, it'll blend in. I'm getting ready to do a little road trip to a gallery near me that is interested in doing some classes on junk journaling. I love doing in-person classes, but there isn't a lot of local artists doing this kind of paper art. We have a lot of painters, a lot of actors doing like theater, but I only know a few people that have really gotten into the junk journaling style. So I have to travel to find my people usually. So I'm going to put together like a 4-week course, and I'll videotape, like pre-do the activity and videotape it so they can reference it, but then later on I'll drop it into my YouTube so people can build the book from home once I'm done with the class. Alright, that looks pretty good. Let me see. Paper-wise, I didn't really do the top. I don't want to do that. I don't want it to break on me. I guess I did get it pretty well. Okay. So, pop that in there. Now we have all of those aged. I think this one could use a little bit of an outline. Not too much, but just make it pop a little bit more. There, I just like it when it has that outline. I don't know. But, okay, now we're going to fully assemble it. So we have the glitter glue or Fabri-Tac. We're going to do the outside edge for sure because we want it to stick down fully and not float away on us. Most importantly around that staple because it's going to want to work its way up. Sorry, I'm a little out of frame here. Center it. We want to make sure it looks like she's flying. You don't have to center it. If you're the kind of person that wants it to be on the side, you can do whatever you want. I do put the words over the staple. You can see that backing was a recycled piece of paper there. It's got a little bit of a face on it. I do use this to cover the staple, so it just has a more finished look. You could leave it open if you're looking to make like a more rugged looking matchbook notebook. Everybody has their own flavor. I'm going to make the words pay to the order in the center and let the other stuff kind of float around. Again, I'm going to cover the staple. Make sure your words are right side up. I've done that before and had to figure out how to get it off without tearing things up. And here's our bidding farewell. Slide that over. And we'll get our scissors in place and we'll be all done. You could do these in a mass make. I mean, this is a pretty small mass make, I guess, but you can sit and do, you know, cut out all the matchbook outsides. And I mean, just doing the bundles ahead of time as a mass make makes a huge difference for me, because I can pull out ones that have to do with the types of books I'm putting together. All right, what do you think? Turned out pretty good. All right, well, good luck with your projects at home, and I will see you in the next tutorial.